Hello, good evening or morning. We're going to be studying Lesson 9, which is about an emperor named Sargon of Akkad. He was one of the first emperors in history. Oh, I bet you're wondering why I'm wearing this mask. Because Sargon was known for wearing masks into war. In fact, an archaeologist found his mask, and now it's in the museum in Iraq. Can you believe that? Well, this mask's not too scary. It's actually a mask that my daughter Jessica made when she was like in second grade, and I just keep it as a souvenir. But the masks they wore back then, and when they went to war, were pretty scary as they wanted to scare their opponent and conquer them. So Sargon was known as the first recorded emperor in history, long time ago, and during the golden age of the Akkadians. Well, let's go back a little bit, because we just got done studying about a man named Nimrod. So if you look at this area, and I want you to look at the map on page 65, because this area that we're going to be talking about is between the Tigris and the Euphrates River, right around there, that runs into close to the Mediterranean Sea and the Persian Gulf you can see there. Well, Nimrod, pretty familiar? Nimrod was the guy that basically founded many of these cities. He also was the man that decided to build a tower or a building to the skies in pride. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, but he built that Tower of Babel, do you remember? And Babel meaning confusing, because God actually stopped the building and confused the languages and dispersed the people because they wanted to be all one against the Lord, saying that mankind is what matters. Very, very profound and very sad, huh? So anyway, this ruler that we're talking about, Nimrod, he set up these city-states, and you can see these city-states there. And we'll be learning about a lot of them because, as history goes, empires rise and empires fall in this area. Babel is one there, you'll see. And Babel is kind of where, I don't really know exactly where it's located, but it's probably where Babylon, as we see later on, was established. Erech, Akkad, Calneh, Nineveh. Nineveh sounds familiar in the Bible. A lot of these cities are in the Bible. Nineveh, one, as we know, that's where Jonah went when he was swallowed by the whale. God had sent him to evangelize, to bring warning to the Ninevites. Right there in Nineveh. Calah, Rezin, Rehoboth. These were the cities Nimrod established. And these city-states were, each city-state was where a king would rule. And then an emperor, though, would rule over all of the city-states. Well, in 1867, there was an archaeologist. He also was a knight because his name was Sir Henry Rawlinson. And he was digging under Nineveh, the ruins there. And he actually found a whole cuneiform tablets written on the legend of Sargon of Akkad. It told about his birth and his growing up and his rise to power as emperor. And then he thought, I think that Sargon might have wrote this himself as an autobiography of himself, one of the first in history. So, and then as he dug further, he found a lot of artifacts, including that mask that I was talking about. And there's a picture of that in your book too. Well, what about his life? Well, Sargon started off pretty humbly as he was an orphan, actually, and he was reared by a guy that was a drawer of water. Man, he went and got the water and drew the water, so he didn't have that famous of a job. But he raised him, and then Sargon became a gardener. You can imagine a gardener, as emperor was a gardener. And then he got a job as a trusted advisor to the king. And the king at that time really liked Sargon, so he set him in his military as leading his military army into war. And Sargon was very, very good at that, and he won many battles as he went to war, probably wearing his mask, as you see. Well, as the empire, as he became emperor, the empire started to get larger and larger, and it went all the way from where Syria is down the map to Turkey, to the Mediterranean Sea. It became pretty big, covering all of that Mesopotamian area. He ruled for 56 years, and then when he died of old age, his two sons took over. Well, they kind of really didn't. They lost some of the land of the Akkadians, but then the grandson took over, and he raised up and went to war. He was a better ruler probably than his father was, but not as his grandfather Sargon. So what happened during this time when the area was taken over by Sargon? Sargon was a descendant, actually, he was Semite, which means he was descendant of Shem. He built a road system. He had the crops, irrigation for the crops. He controlled floods with dams. He studied science. He did artwork. He traded goods as far as India. And he also, did trading into Iran. And as you can see, there's a picture of a baboon. Can you imagine that artwork, a baboon drinking some water there? Very strange. But there was a lot of different artwork they found during this time. Well, the Sumerians decided they did not want the Akkadians to rule over them, and so they raised up a leader that defeated them in 2125 BC. That is a long time ago, 2,000 years before Christ. So here we have this ruler, one of the first rulers, maybe not because one of the first recorded rulers in history, emperors, in fact. Although, when you think about it, he was a Semite descendant from Shem, and so were the Israelites, and so is Jesus, So you would think maybe, just maybe, he had heard the good news of a coming Messiah. I don't know. But as we see, as an emperor, he was pretty strict, and as a warrior, he was did pretty drastic things. So anyway, Sargon. Remember, the guy with the mask, the first emperor, long time ago, was Sargon.